Hi, my name is Dontrell Jackson Ross, and this presentation is entitled Data Analysis Presentation to Leadership. The background of the project site. The background for this project site is called Columbus State University. It is a higher education institution. Columbus State University is a member of the University System of Georgia, which is located 100 miles south of Atlanta. The student population is approximately 8,300 students. 68% of Columbus University students are first generation college students. There are various stakeholders who make up and comprise Columbus State University. These stakeholders include students and faculty, administration, executive staff such as deans, provosts, and also external stakeholders such as community businesses, policymakers, etc. The student faculty ratio is approximately 15:1, and as of fall of 2022, there are 300 full-time faculty members and 495 full-time staff members. Columbus State University, also known as CSU, mission is to empower individuals to contribute to the advancement of local and global communities through an emphasis on excellence in teaching and research, lifelong learning, cultural enrichment, public and private partnerships, and service to individuals that involve reimagining education by experimenting with pedagogy and also learning methods. For this organizational issue, the organizational issue to be explored involves the persistent rates of freshman students at CSU. CSU's retention rates have dropped in the past year, while overall enrollment also has dropped by a little over 6%. A significant contribution to this drop has to do with freshman students' persistence in their general education courses, specifically in their English and math courses. As an intervention, the USG, which is the governing educational body for CSU, has implemented learning support in English and math courses across various campuses to help mitigate attrition. Learning support courses are offered exclusively in a co-requisite format. Now, the co-requisite format means that students requiring learning support will enroll in both a collegiate course, such as English 1101, and a co-requisite learning support course, which would be English 999, that is designed to support mastery of the skills and concepts needed to pass the collegiate course in a just-in-time manner. Now, in theory, this intervention looks favorable, but in practice, this intervention hasn't been successful, and more students are not persisting in their co-requisite courses, which is the purpose of why this organizational issue is relevant. Now, why persistence in English classes need to be addressed? Well, for one, student persistence is directly tied to retention and enrollment. The Board of Regents allocates state funding based on enrollment data. So indeed, in order for CSU to maintain its stability and sustainability, students must be enrolled at a consistent rate. To date, CSU will receive a $4.77 million reduction in funding due to the low enrollment and retention rates. More students persisting through general education short courses, such as English and math foundational courses, will increase and stabilize our institutional budget. So indeed, this is not a minute task. Students being able to persist from the English 1101 support courses has directly ties to the stability of the institution. Now, as I previously mentioned, why does student persistence matter to Columbus State University? Well, creating a more concrete method and best practice for support lab courses such as English 1101-099, is important because it affects long-term stability for the institution. Specifically, the Board of Regents allocates its funding based partially on retention from 2 years prior. So in this case, for summer of 2020, fall of 2020, and also spring of 2021. Due to CSU's inconsistent retention and persistence of students, especially in the freshman area, it is forecasted to result in the $4.77 million of lost production funds for the fiscal year of 2024. So we will be impacted based off of the persistent rates that we've experienced a couple years ago. Now, here is some data to support what's going on here at Columbus State University that can be found in the archives of the Columbus University Institutional Advancement area. Now, this graphing and chart here shows the enrollment report for the past 5 years, so between 2017 and 2022. And specifically, I want us to look here where it says freshman, sophomore. Now, overall, the total with various typologies of students that include dual enrollment, freshman to senior, transient, a non-degree, post-baccalaureate, all of that in undergrad and including grad, the population was 8,452 in 2017. And then there was a drop by 2022 to around 7.5 thousand. All right. So when we look here at the freshman number in 2017, we see that the freshman number was 1609. Okay, so there were approximately 1,609 students that were enrolled. And then when we look here at the data for our freshman students in 2022, we see that there's sort of an increase. You know, we have 1,669 students, which is fine, you know, so it shows that there was a marginal increase, which would be 3.7% over 5 years. Now, someone may look at this data and say, well, what's the purpose of us complaining about the persistence in our freshman student body? Well, if we're looking at persistence for freshmen, we have to look here at the sophomore numbers. And if you see here, the sophomore number says that in 2017, we had 1,392 students, but then in 2022, we only have 1,087 students. And this, out of all of the numbers in the 5-year change, the biggest change comes from the sophomore number, which is down by 21.9%. This is highly significant. It means that out of all of the groups and categorizations and classifications of students on campus, there is a significant drop in the sophomore retention and persistence. And partially that's due to freshman students not being able to matriculate into the sophomore area. And so the graph clearly shows that there are some areas of improvement that needs to be made between the freshman and sophomore experience of students. And this is where students are most likely struggling the most. So there are some peer-reviewed best practices that suggest that in order to have good persistence, you have to have good interventions both internally and externally outside of the classroom. So one of the main internal interventions is to make sure that the actual pedagogy and the teaching strategies involve multimodal learning. And multimodal learning, also called multisensory learning, refers to an approach that incorporates multisensory modalities in the learning process. Multimodal learning recognizes that students have diverse learning styles, and this practice seeks to engage learners through various sensory channels simultaneously. This was coined by Pashler 2008. Now, externally, where persistent rates measure a student's ability to continue to the next term, retention rates are campus-wide and shows the institution's ability to retain those students. And that's by seminal author Tinto, 2017. For the future, researching the persistence of freshman composition students enrolled in support lab courses using both multimodal methodologies as well as integrated support services will yield positive persistent outcomes. So if an instructor is able to expose students to multimodal opportunities, perhaps through the VARC strategy, that's visual, auditory, reading, and also kinesthetic activities, and then also couple that with students being able to have out-of-class experiences with support services to learn time management, to learn how to navigate through advisement, mental health, and also field trips that enrich the experiences of the classroom content, then normally it will be seen that students should have greater persistence in that particular course. When we look at systems thinking has everything to do with shared vision. And shared vision is a key component of organizational productivity, innovation, and survival. It refers to the systemic and systematic coordinated efforts of a group to achieve a shared goal. And this is coined by Singe 2006. When an organization such as CSU has the shared vision, all members of that organization understand and commit to the mission, values, and goals, and in turn create collective discipline and focus. And CSU has begun that particular methodology and that outlook, that ideology of systems thinking. This also coincides with team learning that would involve the process by which a group of individuals work together to learn and solve problems. It involves collaborative and interactive learning with the focus of building shared knowledge, skill sets, and understanding rather than individual expertise. And so far, CSU has taken both a quantitative and qualitative approach in order to address persistence and retention issues by changing the philosophy of education, being more student-centered instead of research-centered, and also seeking out candidates for higher leadership positions that are concerned about the core curriculum and freshman and composition students and how they matriculate. Stakeholders' response to multimodal instruction and support services integration, providing direction and purpose. By sharing congruent beliefs and ideologies regarding the purpose and direction of English courses, objectives, faculty and support services can deploy collectively with that team learning actions and tasks to improve persistence and engagement with both entities. It is assumed that there would be a buy-in by support services because most departments are thinking of creative ways to improve student retention. So this would involve taking different departments out of their silos, where traditionally faculty will be focused on subject matter and support services will be focused on external administrative concerns, integrating both of those entities and cross-training them in a way in which they are able to help students in a more collective and collaborative way. So at CSU, here are some behaviors considered as strengths and opportunities. And that would be transforming conversational and thinking skills. Transforming conversational and thinking skills as a systems thinking process into actionable pursuits that can further the success of the organization plays a key role in how shared vision and team learning interact with one another. These conversations will be essential for various stakeholders. So instead of there being a philosophy from the top down, it'll be from the bottom up, right? Where it doesn't matter where the stakeholder fits in on the hierarchical scale. If a student has an idea, or if an administrative assistant has an idea, or even an external stakeholder who is a business owner has an idea or some input in order to collaborate with the institution, all hands should be on deck to receive that information and to see how those ideas can indeed help to forge a new opportunity for the institution as it relates to persistence and retention. So persistence and retention are interchangeable. Retention is more so the macro level of retaining students, where persistence is how they get to the retention, right? So in order for there to be good persistence, the CSU student retention flow chart has to look as such. There has to be some type of qualitative and quality academic experience, where there's a quality of instruction through multimodal learning that aligns with students' career goals and future aspirations, and that provides rigor and challenges related to the coursework. So students should be able to get a holistic experience academically where they can see how the coursework, even if it's a general education course, how it applies to their future career and skill sets. And likewise, students should be able to have access to know how to navigate through the financial factors. One of the greatest disadvantages that we find why students don't persist through the freshman composition course has nothing to do really with the content at all. It's more so to do with the hidden curriculum, navigating how to pay for tuition. There's a point of the semester called the add drop point, and that's usually done around weeks 2 and 3. And if the student doesn't clear their bill, they will be automatically dropped from the course. And many students are left disheveled and they are left abandoned, where they have to move out of the dorm or they have to try to come up with the money. And during that time, classes are still going on. So this also causes for there to be low persistence rates because many of these students, as I said in the previous slide, 68% are first year college students who did not have this experience taught to them by a previous college parent or guardian. So they're navigating this new process by themselves for the first time. Now, a part of that hidden curriculum is being able to know if the tuition will be affordable and knowing how to access the appropriate grants and scholarships, or even how to navigate student loans, whether they be variable or fixed rates. The other portion of the financial factors that also relate to the persistence and retention of students has to do with the student services, making sure that students are aware of the services that are provided to them, such as academic advising, mental health support, and also career counseling and placement. Now, the intervention specifically for an English 1101 lab course, support course, would involve a 16-week time frame. The first 8 weeks would involve deploying the intervention of multi-learning class strategies and support service visits. So for the first 8 weeks, students would meet at least 4 times on a biweekly basis with a lunch and learn or chat and snack individual where they would talk about, the time management or navigating courses or the external services that are available for them so they know how to navigate the systems that are in process to help them succeed. And then internally, they will be able to navigate multimodal learning by having high impact learning experiences. CSU has 2 campuses that are immersed in culture and diversity of the city of Columbus. One way to infuse multimodal learning is to let students be exposed to various art galleries and various artistic expressions and how they integrate in with a writing class. A good example of this would be to take students to a writing consortium and also an art gallery called the Barry Barlow Center. This gallery is owned by CSU and it would offer students the opportunity to experience multimodal best practices. So the SWOT analysis for CSU is quite unique and straightforward. So some strengths that CSU has is indeed the academic reputation. The college has a strong name for itself in Georgia. It is one of the most sought out state institutions in Georgia that also has resources, and the location is favorable because it is close to Atlanta, but for students who want to still have a suburban rural type of setting, they also can gain that too. So they get the best of 2 worlds, access to a big metropolis, but also access to a rural environment. And then there are a diversity of programs and majors. CSU is known to have a plethora of different programs, whether that be double majors in all types of industries that are globally accepted and globally welcomed. The weaknesses have to do with the high dropout rate, specifically in that freshman, sophomore, senior cognate. Persistent issues with student retention and high attrition in freshman and senior courses are weaknesses. The lack of support includes insufficient academic and emotional support services due to staffing issue and budgetary limitations. So while we do have these resources in place. Usually one counselor has approximately 800 students, and that is a lot for one person to juggle at a time. And then you also have inconsistent senior leadership. There are constant changes and turnover in high executive positions, such as the provost, deans, and directors, in which usually when we get a new uh, executive person in command, they have different ideas while we're still trying to work through the ideas of the previous leader. So having that consistent leadership is a weakness as well. Now, there are several opportunities. One opportunity is to improve the support services. Although the support services are often overwhelmed, they are committed to students, and we can invest in them so that they can have more resources to be able to service students. And then also providing curriculum enhancements, updating and modernizing curriculum. And that's not just with what's being taught, but also the spaces that they're being taught in, making sure that the classes have the latest technology, the latest industry best practice standards to offer a cutting edge, modern academic experience. And then also partnerships, collaborating with local businesses and industries to create internship and job placement opportunities for students. We ultimately want to deploy students into the workplace, into the workforce. And what better way to do this by developing partnerships so students can get the hands-on experience they need in order to be successful in the marketplace. The threats would include the competition. There is increased competition from other colleges and universities in the region. CSU for many students are not the first choice because it's usually considered the state college's best kept secret. Many students, they know more about uh, the Georgia State University and some of the surrounding institutions that have more name notoriety, but we also offer those same type of programs with the same type of competitive edge. So really accessing and being able to counter that competition is one. The budgetary constraints, the limited budget for investing in student support services and infrastructure improvements has been a continued struggle. External factors such as the economic downturns and societal impacts of just the higher education landscape is indeed a threat. And then also the regulatory changes in governing regulations and policies for funding, that is also a threat to us. So sometimes just because of what's going on with politics, with how much the state allocates to public education, has a direct impact on the institution. Now, challenges and solutions for the intervention would be to promote and advertise these type of courses and these new ways of teaching to future students. So that would be both dual enrollment, current students, and also previous students who did not pass the course before, giving them another opportunity to have access to this course in a different way that has the high impact multimodal learning, as well as the some outside external support services. One of the challenges, but also solutions, would be to gather availability of art gallery schedules for students to do high impact learning and multimodal strategies. So making sure that what's being offered will actually be able to be delivered. And then another challenge, but that will also be a solution, would be personal availability of the practitioner to be able to schedule with student services and also teach in such a way that this intervention can indeed be enacted. And then another challenge would be to gain a budget for this particular project. It's anticipated that 10 students would be the pilot for this project, and the lunch and learn or the chat and snack sessions, it would be $13 per lunch. And if you had 4 sections, that would equal out to $520 for a minimum operating expense. So in conclusion, integrating multimodal learning techniques along with support services in the foundation English class at CSU with the help of English 1101 students will help persist English 1101 students to English 1102. This strategy requires a collaborative effort for the subject matter experts and institutional departments to accomplish this initiative. From this intervention, instructors and directors can use the data to scale up this program by using what worked in favor of persistence for English students. Thank you. Here are my sources.